In this episode, I sit down with Jared Augustine, a seasoned entrepreneur and the visionary behind People's League, a competitive golf league built for the modern era of content, community, and creators. Jared shares the origin story of the People's League, which was born from a simple but powerful idea. What if amateur YouTube golf had the same infrastructure and engagement as a professional tour? This episode isn't just about golf. Jared brings decades of experience in the startup world. He talks candidly about the hard parts of building a league, aligning schedules, creating competitive formats, securing sponsors, and keeping both fans and players engaged. We talk about the rise of creator athletes, the power of building in public, and why success in today's sports landscape demands both vision and execution. At the very least, if you're a fan of YouTube golf, you'll want to listen in. Enjoy. Welcome to The Range, the podcast where we explore the intersection of passion and business in the world of golf. I'm your host, Ari Ratner, and each episode will dive into the stories of the innovators, entrepreneurs, and trailblazers who are transforming the game we love into thriving businesses. Whether you're a golf enthusiast, an inspiring entrepreneur, or just curious about the business behind the sport, you're in the right place. So grab your clubs and join us on The Range as we tee off into the world of golf entrepreneurship. Welcome back to another episode of The Range. We're here joined with Jared Augustine, founder of the People's League, part creator-driven, part media network. Jared, appreciate you jumping on. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I tried to do my best to explain the People's League, but figure you could do it better justice. Tell the audience what the People's League is.
Sure. Yeah. Well, look, I think to answer that question, I probably need to talk about a little bit about why it exists. Okay. But the direct response to your question is it is the first league established to organize the competition amongst YouTube golfers. So why does this thing exist, right? Is an obvious question. Over the past 90 days, there's been over 4 billion views of golf content on YouTube. Almost none of this is going to the professional tours or the professional players, with the exception of Bryson, who does an excellent job. So where are these views going? They're going to amateurs. They're going to amateurs who are posting golf content on their channels and building significant engaged audiences. And, you know, my background is in sports and entertainment and creator media. You know, over a decade, a few different companies I founded and exited. And one was Thuzio, online marketplace for booking professional athletes. The other, Julius, an influencer marketing software application. And so I mentioned that because over a decade in one foot in sports, one foot in creator media. And, what's happened in golf is extraordinary.
Yeah.
If you're under 40, you're much more likely to have watched an amateur on YouTube a couple weeks ago than you were the US Open. My realization of this over the past several years, and it's not just me, right? It's everybody in the golf industry, led me to the conclusion after spending time getting to know the creators in the space that there was an opportunity to establish not just an event, not a tournament, but a league devoted to organizing competition and providing the proper governance and stakes and all the things you expect from a league infrastructure for this community of creators that have really taken over golf.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when you talked about just the increase of being able to see amateurs on the web, it didn't pop in my head until you said something that, PGA Tour event or a Live Tour event are only 4 days of the weekend or the week, where amateur golf is 7 days a week. So you have that ability to build an audience and share content on a much more frequent basis than these traditional leagues do.
Yeah, that's right. And so we really study the viewing habits of this audience, right? And, a couple things are interesting. I mean, one thing is episodic golf. Okay, so not live golf, not a live broadcast, but episodic golf, filming a match or an event, editing it, distribute it episodically. That's how people are consuming this content on YouTube generally. Yeah. And in retrospect, I don't think it should be that big of a surprise that this is a terrific way to consume the game of golf, right? You sort of can boil down 18 holes to an hour of viewing and see the headline, all the great hits. So I think this episodic approach on-demand episodic approach is really important and really innovative and here to stay. And again, like these creators in the space figured this out. Like they cracked the code, right? We're just People's League is just jumping in and trying to organize it and create some a real economy out of it. But that's how people want to watch golf on YouTube. And so you can turn that on anytime you want. I think the other thing that's been interesting is to watch people, or so we see viewers, they almost take in the content. It reminds me of like a little bit like sports radio,
Hmm.
like you kind of have it on in the background. You might be going about your day. You might even be working, but you're enjoying it, and it's kind of filling up the space and of your environment in that moment. And that's just an interesting viewing habit, and it makes it just so accessible and easy. And so it's just exploded.
Well, and it allows you to stay connected to the sport that so many people love, right? Outside of, spending anywhere from 3.5 to 5 hours actually playing the game, or having to sit through a, 8 hour viewing of a PGA event, right? You're in and out. So it allows you to stay connected and appreciate the kind of enjoyment of the game itself. Before we jump into kind of the creation of the league, how you went from back of the napkin to launching it. What's your connection to the sport?
So my connection to the sport is, and I will admit this at the top with anyone who's getting to know me in this business. I wanted to start this business because I believe deeply in creator media.
Hmm.
I believe creators are driving the economy, commerce, culture, everything today. Okay. So that's kind of step one for me. Whatever I was going to do after Thuzio and Julius was going to be a creator driven business. That's my first stop on the journey. I wanted to do this. It just happens to be that golf is the fastest growing category in creator media. Now, it also happens to be that I love golf, but it's a two-step process to get there, right? There's lots of things I love that I could have necessarily didn't provide this opportunity. I love golf. I play it as often as I can. I'm 44 years old. I've got three kids, 11, 9, and 7. There was a big stretch there where I couldn't play as much as I wanted to. Now I have access to a club. I live in the suburbs, and it's a big part of my life.
Yeah. Did you play growing up, or was it later in life that you picked it up?
I mean, I played sporadically growing up. I'm one of these people that had a weekend golf excursion with their college buddies all through my 20s and 30s, right? And that kind of keep me grounded and attached to the game. But I would say it's become a much more important part of my life over the past 5 years,
For sure.
since having this sort of access.
And like you said, priority is building a business in the creator media industry secondarily, but probably makes it a bit easier that it's something that you love and enjoy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
let's hone in on your entrepreneurial experience, because the goal of this podcast is to just illustrate some of the journeys that other entrepreneurs have gone on to reach where they are in the golf industry. And you, I think, are unique in that you've had some really successful businesses and really on the cutting edge of the creator space, right? Because 10 years ago, this didn't really exist. And so being able to help launch a category and now adding a new element into the category, talk about your experience and Julius, and how that has shaped how you're looking at building the People's League.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, if I go back to Thuzio, I think what's similar is I was trying to take a crack at a trend in a category that I frankly didn't have a lot of experience in. Like prior to Thuzio, I was in technology startups, online marketplace businesses all through. It's kind of where I grew up in New York, the New York startup scene. A company called Seamless Web, online food ordering. I was there for a long time. I grew up at that business, and it was a wonderful experience. But when I met my co-founders at Thuzio, a gentleman named Mark Gerson, prolific entrepreneur out of New York, started Gerson Lehrman Group GLG, and Tiki
Mhm.
Barber is a name that you'll know, and I imagine many of your listeners will know, that they had hatched this idea of what if we built a marketplace that could make appearances with professional athletes available in a marketplace environment, right? And they were both at wonderful points in their career that didn't require them to run that business day to day, and so they gave me the great opportunity to co-found it with them and come on as the CEO. That was my first CEO job. And as soon as we started it, we had a marketplace with 2,000 athletes that you could go book to go have lunch with or have a lesson with or do a call with. We even had like a Cameo product before Cameo, a video message product. And anyway, like we start this business and all of a sudden all these agencies come calling and they're like, what the hell is this? Like there's sort of a way this is done and you're trying to do it differently. But we felt really strongly that there was a better customer experience that could be established and that there was a way to create a greater pie through the evolution of that product, the innovation, I should say, of that product opportunity. In other words, if we can give more people the opportunity to book professional athletes, there will be more bookings of professional athletes and everybody will make more money, right? So that was fundamental to that start of Thuzio. And there's some similarities here, I think, in that I'm an absolute outsider of the golf industry. I'm like learning aggressively about how things work and who does what and who the players are. And it's super fun because it's such a compelling industry with so many awesome people.
Yeah.
And such a great history. So that's similar. And I think the other thing that's similar is like, what we're telling our players is by aggregating this community in the same way we did with Thuzio, we believe we can create a greater pie for the community of creators. There are significant brands, not the endemic brands, but rather non-endemic brands that recognize golf is growing really fast. It has taken hold of this demo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Generally male demo, call it 20 to 45. Like it is really taken hold. And those brands want to be involved. They want to make investments in this category, but they might not fit on the PGA Tour or the Live Tour. So okay, they can go do individual deals with creators and they should, and they will get a great return and a great product. But some brands want to invest at scale and they want to have a full baked program that is consistent with other types of sports sponsorship that they do with other leagues and teams. And so we believe we can create a greater pie for this creator, this player community by establishing a platform for brands to make greater investments. So I went way off the Thuzio stuff, but that's what it reminded me of in terms of similarities here day one and like why we think it's important to start it.
Yeah, I love it. And let's talk a little bit about day one, right? So you have this idea. How do you go about building it and inviting creators to join the league, start to figure out the content plan, the distribution plan, who else becomes involved? How do you talk a little bit about just the genesis of the beginning of the People's League, which I know
Yeah,
is
sure. I mean,
infancy, right?
I'm sorry, what was that?
I just said it's still in its infancy, but all the stages and steps matter.
Sure. Yeah, it was kind of guerrilla warfare to get into the creator community and start to make inroads. Gabby Powell is a great creator who created some great introductions for us. The first several creators that we were able to bring on, they started to tell their friends, their colleagues. We brought on one of the first creators that we brought into this vision was Martin. And Martin is another one that, he has really wonderful and important, thoughtful ideas about what a league like this, how a league like this should work. And Martin, bought into the idea for the vision for himself and then was also happy to share that point of view with others, right? And so it's a bit of word of mouth at early days. I think the other thing we did is by establishing a team construct, our league right now is teams of creators playing against each other. So if you can get one person interested in having a team, then they go and they think about their network and who else they can bring in, right? We brought in Luke Kwan to have a team. And so for him, it was very obvious. I'm going to go bring in Sam. I'm going to go bring in Toombs. That's going to be my squad. That's why I already have, a bit of a troop with already.
Yeah.
So I think that word of mouth from the team anchors was a really important. The other thing I've noticed is we work with some really great marketers on behalf of the talent. I don't want to like name drop all of them, but
Yeah.
the creator golf community, I think, has strong and entrepreneurial representation
Hmm.
that is frankly quite different than what we experienced in our athlete dealings during my Thuzio days.
Yeah.
I think that, the marketers and that are helping these creators build their business are quick to recognize that there's much more to be figured out for how they're going to grow. And so when they see a new idea like People's League, they were very interested in this vision and what it could mean for their clients. And so we had some early marketers that did a great job of putting us in touch with the right creators because they really believed that it could help them grow
Yeah.
and have a meaningful income stream.
And as you think about scaling, like, is the goal to just bring on more creators, more teams, and continue, hosting more events? Like, what is the way to scale this business?
Yeah. Okay. So look, I think first thing is we have to establish this year is about us establishing our brand promise, which we want to be that the People's League is where you go to watch the best YouTube golfers and golf influencers compete against each other.
Yeah.
That's our brand. We want to be, one thing we've learned about the YouTube golf fan, they are golf purists, just like the fans watching the PGA Tour. They want to see good golf and they want to see golf with real stakes. And
Hmm.
so, we're intent on establishing that brand. And what that means is that we want to grow and have more teams. And I could take you through that cadence a bit. But ultimately, we want everybody who has a meaningful channel on YouTube and is a great golfer
Yeah.
to be in this league and be a part of this league. And we're working hard every day to create the right inroads with the right personalities to introduce them to what we're doing and what we're building and trying to expand. And so my answer would be yes. My goal is there's a really cool website. Well, I think it's cool. I don't know if many people think it's cool, but there's a site. This guy is like tracking all the handicaps of YouTube golfers. I got to think of what the exact URL I'm up with it, but
Yeah.
and there's 70 YouTube golfers that have I believe it's like a 6 handicap or better.
Yeah.
Okay. So that tells me there's 70 players that are good at golf that
Hmm.
people want to watch. And we want all of them in this league winning with us, provided with equity upside and what this league presents, earning big prize money and, taking advantage of the growth that we think we can provide in the categories. We're out to really try to bring everybody in. And so today we have 6 teams. We're about to launch our 6th team, which is a team led by Melosi. In fact, we're really excited about. And then we're going to add a team 7 and 8. And all these teams have 3 players, by the way. And then we'll add a team 7 and 8 before our championship event that we're building up to in October, which we'll film at Chateau Elan in October. And the other thing we're going to be doing at that event is launching our singles tour. One thing we've uncovered, and perhaps unsurprisingly, is that there's a number of creators in the space that building a team brand is a challenge for them.
Yeah.
And so what do? Are they locked out, of this opportunity? We think not. We think we should give people, including the people the players who are already on teams, the
Hmm.
opportunity to compete in an individuals competition as well. And so we're going to introduce that product or that format, I should say, at our October event, at our championship event. And so what we want the People's League to look like next season, in 2026, is 4 major tournaments where you will be able to see the singles competition on a day and a teams competition on a day.
Hmm.
And we're already in preparation building the 2026 schedule. We'd like to see the 8 teams grow to 12.
Hmm.
We'd like to see our singles competition include up to 50 players in those tournaments by the end of the season. And the one other thing I'll add is our competition format. We actually pivoted on our format during the course of season 1. when we started the league, the idea was we will have a fixed number of teams and a fixed number of matches, same as MLB or NFL or NBA, right? But as we began to grow, we realized that teams were, there was so much inbound interest in forming teams.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought, well, we can't add them because how are they going to play all the matches in time for the championship? And so um, uh, our team looked at how the UFC functions or
Mm-hmm.
boxing or PGA Tour,
Yeah.
where there's kind of an always on champion and then there's contenders and there's constantly matches and opportunities for those contenders to knock off the champion. And that's how we're going to run our league. And we're really going to try to cement that with our content that we film in October and our storytelling we have in October. And what that does is it creates like a much more flexible format for us because frankly, if we have an event in when we launch our next season in February, and if one of the 12 teams can't make it for whatever reason, well, that's okay. We can still have a really great tournament, and the whole season isn't for naught. Further, if we have a singles competition and someone that we like to be there or wants to be there can't attend, that's okay. They can come to the next event. And so that's been like an important evolution of our format that's really freed us up and puts us in position to scale throughout the season.
Super exciting. And I think, you covered off a lot from the angle of the creator or athlete or player. As you think about the business and think about maybe the two other important areas of the business audience, right? People that are watching and tuning into the content, and then the operational side of it in terms of dealing with the courses, how to figure out what's, a major event versus just another event. Let's first talk about the audience and talk about your fans and how you go about building that fandom and leveraging, either insights through engagement, or how do you interact with the fans to allow them to become part of the growth of the league?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, building for the fan, I know it's cliche, but I think we have to do it to be successful. We're not the PGA Tour with the Creator Classic, right? We're not Barstool with the Internet Invitational. We're an upstart. And so I think we need to do two things really well to compete. I think we need to win the creators' minds and hearts by making them owners in this league.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think we need to really deliver the product for the fans and keep the fans highly engaged in building the league with us,
Mm-hmm.
And so the way that we're trying to be quite intentional about doing both of those things, but on the latter specifically, we brought in Nate Edwardson into our team. I don't know if you're familiar with Nate at all, but Nate, in my view, is like the super fan of YouTube golf.
Yeah.
He has a terrific show that he's been doing on his own channel for a while, and he covers this category.
Yeah.
And he does it a great job with it. And I wanted to launch a show that would run alongside our match and tournament content that was basically just a fan perspective on what was happening. And so we brought Nate on to run a show on the People's League Network that does exactly that covers the category and also will get into the feedback of the fans on our product,
Mm-hmm.
provide a forum for that,
Yeah.
I ran a Web3 business called Knights of Degen, which was an NFT community. And we had a Discord where all of our customers would tell us all day long what they wanted. And it was so valuable. And so that's what we're trying to recreate. It's not quite as easy on YouTube because of just the forum of conversation, but we're really trying to leverage that show to like pull out the answers and the feedback from the YouTube golf fan community to make sure we're giving them what they want. And I'll give you an example of where they spoke loud and clear.
Mm-hmm.
They said they didn't want handicaps. We ran our first 6 matches were with handicaps, and the community came back and said like, it just doesn't have the intensity that we think it should.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a surprise for me, but they spoke up and they said, look, we want to see heads up golf. And that's what we're doing going forward. So that's an example where, we really try to listen to the fan base and like course correct on the product. And like, we're always going to do that with the fans.
How did the creators react to that? Because as players, right, playing with handicap is evens things out, makes it more competitive, or seemingly would. How did they react to that feedback and ultimately the decision
Yeah.
to remove handicaps?
Yeah. So look, I think that there's only a handful of players in our league where that becomes a real challenge for them.
Yeah.
The majority are ready to go play heads up against any other. And so it's sort of minimized to a few players in our league. And that's something that look, they're gonna have to get better. That's really what it's gonna come down to. And they all want to. So that's gonna be the demand. They're going to have to get better if they want to win, and I don't think that's so crazy, right? That's kind of sports.
Absolutely.
But we felt very strongly in hearing the fan feedback that we had to do that and make that change.
Maybe down the road there's like a minors league for the People's League, right?
Well, no joke. Like, it's one of those things like we talked about. Should we just immediately tier this?
Yeah.
If you think about golf, like at clubs, you'll have your member guest where there's a no handicap run and there's a handicap run. And we absolutely may evolve that way. But it was one of those like, let's try not to do too many things at once. And the majority of our players are really good golfers and can play heads up. So let's lean into that and establish the brand that way.
It's awesome. I love any brand that's able to hear the feedback directly and make changes, and really, because at the end of the day your audience is driving the business, right? It's both creators and your audience, but ultimately they're going to tune out if they're not seeing what they want to see. So kudos for you to make that change. Segmenting or segueing into the operational side of things, calling up a course X number months in advance and saying, you have this creator driven league, this is what you want to do. How are some of those early on conversations versus conversations now as you're planning into 26? How has that evolved?
Yeah. Look, we came right out of the gate with our first invitational at Hammock Beach, a golf resort, Palm Coast, Florida. Terrific partner, amazing course. And we struck a great deal, I think, for both sides, where they were able to enable us to host a multi-day tournament, well below retail, well
Mhm.
below market rate. That comes from, not just the golf itself, but the hospitality for all the players and the accommodations and all of that. And in return, we make them, we blow them up as a
Yeah.
partner for the weekend. And so, starting the business that way and seeing that sort of partnership available right out of the gate was super important. I think both sides are really happy with that outcome. And it's that model that now we've carried with us
Yeah.
to the other courses that we aim to participate with. Now, the other thing I'll mention is that Hammock Beach is a Troon course. And
Hmm.
so their good experience provided a nice referral into the Troon network of courses. And so, in fact, for our championship event, we're going to Chateau Alon outside Atlanta, which is another Troon course. And I would say Troon has been really great in helping us navigate the course side and
Yeah.
accommodation side of these events. Yeah. And look, it's one of like the more enjoyable parts of the job, right? Like
Yeah.
we all get to think about these amazing courses and places where the players can go, and the scheduling is not enjoyable, but figuring out where to go is great.
Yeah. Yeah. And I imagine, when a course first hears, this creator league, there may be this idea that, hundreds or thousands of people are going to come and watch live. But when that, is different than your typical PGA or Live Tour event, what's that initial reaction from the clubs?
Yeah, great point. And like, look, some clubs want what you described. They want thousands of people showing up in mine, but most clubs don't. For most clubs, that's a big ordeal to have all those people at there. So I would argue it opens up the opportunity for us more, that our events are more, I'll call them VIP film sessions of these
Hmm.
tournaments. The other thing is like, because we're not trying to focus on ticket sales and rather just really we're focused on the creator experience. We run our events Monday through Wednesday. And so that makes it a lot easier for these courses and resorts to make space available to us because it's not so disruptive to their business. So that's been good. We do have aspirations of having a live event opportunity for fans. But for this year, we felt we had to focus on getting the filming right and the creators experience right, and
Yeah.
and can't really introduce fans into the golf experience just yet, unless of course you're watching on YouTube.
Yeah, which is, like you said, millions of people are doing on every week. As you think about, where creator golf is today, where actually golf is as a sport, right? The evolution has been ongoing, and what you guys are building seems to be the right time for something like this. But there are other events, as you mentioned, the Barstool event. Good does a number of these types of events. How do you differentiate yourself as the pendulum swings into this creator driven mindset and creator driven industry within golf?
Yeah. Well, look, I think the thing that I really feel firmly about is that this is a category of its own that is here to stay. And this category is and can be more than just individual pop up tournaments, and definitely more than a marketing mechanism for the professional leagues. There's nothing, if you're one of the professional tours, your objective is your core product. It's growing your core business. And so when you see something like Creator Golf, it is natural to think about how can this help me grow my core product? From our perspective, this is the product. This is the league. This is the stakes. This is what people want to see. This is a tour in and of itself with its own, purpose. And it's not to market anything else. It's because people want to watch these players compete against each other. And so that's where I think our differentiation comes in.
Mm.
We are committed to being a league structure for this community of golfers. And the difference between, I think, and Barstool just had their announcement, and it's like every player I want in our league. It's so impressive and amazing. And if I were Dave Portnoy, that's exactly what I would do. Like
Yeah.
that's an incredible roster. That for them and their business works wonderfully, right? Massive event, huge cash prize, big bang, and then they've got all of the Barstool ecosystem, right, to build on and work on the rest of the year. Like for us, this is the thing.
Yeah.
The whole business is oriented around this product, this community of players, and it does come back, I think, to economics at the player level. If we're successful, YouTube golfers will be able to rely on the People's League for recurring monthly and annual income,
Hmm.
you know, the way other players in other leagues do. And I know from getting to know the creator community over many years that the number one thing that keeps them up at night is just like, where's that next brand deal going to come from? Right.
Yeah.
And so if we can give them a platform to do what they do always on throughout the year and see, have something predictable in their lives about income and earnings, I think that's how we can be successful. That's how we can be different.
Yeah.
And if we can do a great job of that, of funneling brand investment to these players by way of prize money and appearance fees and
Yeah.
travel costs and all those things, then there's going to be no reason for them to not want to be a part of this, I think. And then we're providing equity and hopefully creating some really great upside for everybody as we grow the business and one day perhaps exit.
And there's nothing to kind of say that a creator in the People's League can't play in another event outside the
No.
People's League, right?
No, I don't think we ever would have gotten off the ground if we tried to take an exclusive approach. I hope that we can fill up our calendar and create a meaningful enough income opportunity for the creators that they simply don't need to play in other events. And that's our goal. But we have no intention of saying like, hey, you just got to be with us. We have to win it on its own merits, I think.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And it's really interesting how you just kind of talk through the creators, earning enough from events within the People's League. It's fascinating because that tied Thuzio back to what you're doing today, right? Like that was the whole premise of Thuzio, to get athletes, to earn more revenue by bringing them to the people. So I think it comes full circle. As we kind of close out the conversation, would love to hear some general advice for other entrepreneurs that are trying to get into the golf space across many different types of businesses, right? I mean, you are a true entrepreneur. You're not a golf entrepreneur. So would love to just give you the platform to give any advice that you'd like to share.
Yeah, I'm the right guy to talk to about how to get into golf. Like, I think I'm still trying to get into golf. Like, here's would be my advice for starting a business generally. I like to think about categories. I mentioned the category of creator golf. And when I evaluate a new business idea, that's what I'm trying to understand is what are the terms of this category?
Mm,
What is the market size of this category? Who are the players? Where's the green? Where's the green field? Where's the open space to innovate with that category? And ultimately, do you think you can build something that can win that category? You know, and so that's where whenever I'm spending time thinking about different businesses and concepts, that's what I'm trying to think about. What's the category? What's the market size? Can we win here? And if we win, can we create value for others, within that category? Because that's part of winning. Like you've got to make everybody successful, I think, when you enter into a categories. I would say look for categories, and then look, the other thing we really aspire to with at the People's League is how we think about our own internal team creation.
yeah.
Hire high fire, high IQ, high integrity people.
Yeah.
And by the way, we're looking for that with our creators that we're working with as well. Everybody in this ecosystem. And so if you've got an exciting category to work on and you can bring in the right people alongside your vision, that's an exciting starting block, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I let you jump, we do a rapid fire round of questions just to give the audience a deeper sense into you as an individual, and then we'll give you a chance to tell everyone where to find out more about the People's League across socials. But just a handful of questions for you. What's your favorite golf course you've ever played?
Can I make a prediction of my favorite golf course? I'm playing on Monday at Baltusrol on Monday. So I'm gonna foreshadow that. I'm
Okay.
really excited about that round.
Tuesday, send me a note and let me know if it in fact was your favorite course you
Yeah,
played.
yeah. And I'm playing with my brother, which is always a fun round no matter what. So
That's awesome. When you're on the course, what's your favorite drink and snack?
favorite drink, I would say, let's see. Am I drinking alcohol in this instance? Or okay. It's either water or it's a Friday afternoon hazy IPA, I would say.
Okay. Okay. And then a snack.
A snack. I'm like, I'm like protein stuff, it's an
Yeah.
RX bar, that kind of thing. I don't
Yeah.
know, nothing too
Not a hot dog on the turn. Yeah.
like I said, I'm 44, so that like slows me down if I have a hot dog at the turn.
Fair enough. As you think of the People's League, what's a dream golf collaboration from a brand perspective, from a creator perspective, from both? Like you're open table.
Well, there are some creators that we really want to work with.
Yeah.
Like really want to work with. It's probably obvious, but there are some personalities right now really driving the category.
Hmm.
Grant is an example of that. Bryan Brothers, example of that.
Hmm.
Paige is an example of
Yeah.
that. You know,
Yeah.
I want to work with them. I want them to be a part of this and help make it their own as well. So we definitely want to continue to bring in the entire community of YouTube golfers. So that's absolutely a dream collaboration. And then I would be really excited. We've had some pro players take an interest in what we're
Mm.
doing. And I don't think playing in our league is the right thing, but team ownership is available. And I think it'd be really cool if we had, and I'm sure we will, sell a team to a professional golfer. I think that'd be pretty great too. There's so many things like I want to do with this business. I mean, there's so many different media properties I love to work with. I could go on for days.
Hey, we could have a whole podcast just on that question.
Yeah, things I hope happen.
Yeah. All right. Last question, but I think it's super relevant to to the range and to the audience, what's the most surprising lesson that the sport of golf has taught you about business or entrepreneurship?
Sport of golf has taught me about business or entrepreneur. The most surprising lesson.
Or just the
You
biggest
know, you know what I've been thinking about a little bit? I think golf is like this, and startups are like this. Startups, you have like, there's 7 days in a week,
hmm
and you're basically hoping that 4 of the 7 days you take 2 steps forward,
Yeah.
because the other 3 you're definitely taking 1 step backwards. And then you end out ahead. And I think golf is like that too, right? Like if you play 7 rounds,
Yeah.
you're definitely going backwards on a few, but hopefully you keep improving. So I don't know that there's like a lesson as much as a similarity in the game. Like you really have to persevere
Yeah.
to play golf, and you have to persevere to try to start a golf league, in year, from day one. And that really makes me think about our team that's working
Yeah.
on this, and how much they're putting into it, and the risks that they're taking, right?
Yeah.
To try to build something new. So anyway, that was what came.
It's interesting because what I take from that is, you can't get too high off a really good shot, but you can't get too low off a bad one. And similar in business, when you have a good day, you got to, make sure that it's balancing out the bad days, which
Yeah,
I think is
yeah,
the lesson that at least that I got
yeah,
from
yeah. I think that's right. That's right. A good day, having a good day means that the tough days around the corner. So
it. Yeah.
just be ready for it. Yeah,
Well,
that's right.
and vice versa,
And
right?
vice versa. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Well, Jared, I appreciate the conversation, appreciate the time. Big fan of what you're doing. Before we hang up, if you want to tell people how to find you on socials, how to find the People's League, that'd be great.
Yeah. Oh, Ari, thank you so much for having me. This is great. So you can find us, People's League Golf, on YouTube. Please subscribe, watch what we're doing. People's League Golf on Instagram as well. And I'm at Jared Augustine on X and on.
Well, I appreciate the time, Jared, and look forward to following along.
Yeah. Thank you, Ari. Thanks for having me on.
Take care.
Bye.